Good morning, class. Welcome to Homeroom with Unk and Market Monk.
Morning, P. How's your week?
Uh, Really good. It was the best looks for me were right after, like the day after ER, and the way that some of the option pricing settles out, and just catching some moves there, like McDonald's, for example. McDonald's opens flat. It's pretty likely, going to move to the upside. It opened down 2%. I was planning to buy calls if it was flat, and then it went down 2%. I'm like, well, it's gonna at least get that back, and so that happened within about 30 minutes. Just kind of doubled up there. Just some other setups, worked pretty well for me. Things I've been holding for a little while. Roku, Spotify was the big winner for me. That one dipped 10% on earnings, on numbers, decent guidance, so that was likely to recover. That got the whole move back. So anything there did well. And options, you can't, unless you're rolling it, you can't really just keep those for a whole move like that. It doesn't really work that way. But I had quite a few shares too, so yeah, it's really happy with the work there.
Nice. um, had an interesting start to the week with the Weight Watchers. I don't know, a fiasco volume, whatever you want to call it, but
Yeah.
um, it did really well there. And then Hims, the news with Hims, um, also another just it wasn't a $20 stock, and I mean I think that was the thesis the first time around, and so it to get back there again, and then to get a little bit of news, you kind of see the range why I like that one. Um, that very few trades check like all the boxes, and do I when they do check all the boxes, do I trade them? And the boxes I'm talking about are short-term trades, long-term swings, and long-term investments. And Hims kind of fits that for me on all three of those. So I do get a decent sizing in that one. And then with Weight Watchers, man, I thought the start of the year, I really thought I was going to trade that from a dollar to $8 or $9. That was really where I was at. But we got it from 10 cents to a dollar, and I didn't really get on board on that until about 30 cents. But it was a good two days and a few trades on that, and went into kind of a little more cautious at the end of the week. Thinking we still were going to be in the 3-2 market, and let's just say being cheap as a style and higher lows hard makes it really hard to get entries. So didn't really have much activity towards the end of the week on my end. But I like where the market's at. So kind of in that one of the things that I usually notice when the market's good and I'm and I'm trading, um, in like an uptrend, definitely you see some patterns. Well, as we start to turn, you kind of see some patterns too, and not necessarily. I don't call them quick hitters like you, but quick starts to the week on pretty
Yep.
bullish days usually is a good sign for me, and have seen a few of those in the last week or so.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Quick hitters are definitely an option term. Um, and it's helped me a lot in the 3-2 market. But during all of that, I was also looking for things that I could hold for a while, because I ended up with uh, a decent chunk of cash just from winners that pulled back and hit the last stops, right? So
Yep.
and Spotify was one of them, by the way. So to go back in and find some things that can do the quick trades on, but also can hold on to for a while. Nvidia at 95 was one of them. Tesla 220, like, and, just to have a position that I'm going to give some room to, on stocks that are leaders and pretty clearly long-term winners. Uh, One of my better trades of the week, honestly, was when I got out of LLY right before earnings. I'd posted it after hours. I was 920 was my pivot. it was like 918, and I posted in the group. I'm like, well, close enough. And so I just wanted to get out before that, and then you can see the dip that it did. Now it only retraced to the downside a little, about half of what was from the entry that we were in the lower 700s, but still, I mean, there wasn't really a reason to me to keep that up there when it can just retrace to the downside like this. And there's just so many trades on this, and it's in a spot where there's something on it almost every day. It's showing up in my notes, so I was more than happy to clear out there here before. Probably going to stay in this range for a bit. That the whole weight loss sector is interesting in that Hims is the big disruptor, but people keep cutting deals with them, or there's rumors of it. NVO was the latest one on that. So they're just, one thing I get out of that is like, Hims isn't really going away, and that kind of was the big winner there. And then you got Weight Watchers kind of popping back into it. So within healthcare, it's been a good place to be.
Yeah, I think we said it a week ago, and I don't know if it's this chart or another, but if you can't trade 740 to 920, I don't know what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah, I see that in general, and I think it's kind of coming back to collabs a little bit, where you're just getting a rotation to sectors that make sense. And again, another bullish sign. It's not like they're going to the one clear winner. It's getting coverage in the sector. We've seen it even with Bitcoin. Over the last maybe 3 weeks from you, you're like, it's these names. It's not just a name. And as that continues, I think the market goes with. But it's just a current rotation from that, and you're usually pick up on a thing, and then we build the thesis out. So not new to us that the Weight Watchers and the Hims and the Lilies have had pretty good bounces from some pullbacks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, MSTR's was my big winner of this crypto move. Not the first time, but even more so than I was in this more than coin this round, and that worked for me. But one thing I notice on traders and my exposure to traders, like, it's a little bit on Reddit, but mostly Twitter, and the way that a lot of those guys really just misplayed this whole 3-2 thing is just kind of amazing to me. And then so they were things like Bitcoin miners, or they're doing small caps. It's IWM, which is the worst way to trade small caps, in my opinion. I said that over a year ago. And then these guys are like, they get frustrated with it. And it's like, well, I'm done with miners, and IWM's trading like a shit coin. So now I'm going to move into these ones. And it's, AMD, and then they're buying Hims up here, and just Square, and like all, like they'll just have this whole list, and the list seems kind of random. And I'll just ask the question, like, if the work you did before got you into those losing trades, how is the work different now? What is it? And that's just an honest question, and it's a question I would ask as a teacher. Anybody, like, if what you're doing isn't working, what did you change to now reach this new conclusion of these new stocks, or this new outlook, or this new way of doing things? So it comes down to just a bad process. And there's a reason why whenever we do get into it with someone on about a specific ticker on Twitter, that you and I usually end up being right. It doesn't, because the whole reason I even saw the tweet is I don't even follow these people. Algorithm or whatever, it gives it to me because I was talking about that stock in a different context at a different time. It's like, well, this thing, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit what we do. Not that what we do is the only way to do things, but if someone has a 180-degree opposite opinion of this thing, it's a pretty low probability setup for lots of reasons. So like all these guys, it's like they just keep doing that same thing, and I'd wonder why, but I figured out it's what you said, that what they're producing, their process is engagement.
Yeah.
That's the process. It's not winning trades. It's a story. And if they start losing, the story is about they're losing and their rebound and this great comeback story and the new small account challenge. They just do that shit over and over and over again. So they get kind of mad at me when I point that out. But oh well, like I don't really. I mean, I don't know. I just my hope of it is, as fun it is as it is to get into it with those guys, is that somebody who wants to actually learn how to do this and see things differently sees the work and sees the receipts, because we got plenty of them.
No, definitely. My big that what I don't get that the masses don't get is the best way to say that is that they talk as if they're like, day traders, for the lack of a better term. They're gonna make some calls and they're gonna have multiple entries throughout the day, but then anything they write or anything they have in, I use the word real lightly because we stand on them, thesis is like from a really investor standpoint or some fundamental
Right.
standpoint or some others, like they just don't use the two together properly, and they don't look at, like, if you're day trading, why would you care about anything but like the volume and the chart? Like, you really,
Yeah.
you that's all you need. And if you're swing trading, all right, well, we're looking, for kind of a reason to go with that, and looking for a place to enter maybe over a week or so. And you don't, and I am a swing trader, so you don't see anyone on Twitter saying, all right, we're going to DCA this in this channel over the next 3 weeks. It's a good buy right now. And you just don't see
Yeah.
that. So they have to stay, I guess, in the pond or the lake that they know how to swim in. But it's real hard for a day trader to tell stories, like you're saying. So they switch to that investment. And for me, that's always been like this guy's like telling you to enter a short term trade and talking about fundamentals of the stock. Wouldn't you want to go long if he was right? And yeah, it's just something I've never gotten. And I'm definitely with you on, if someone's I'll go a step farther with it. If someone's like following that person, um, or actively trading with that person, I can peel them away from them and make them come come to the dark side before they lose their account from a couple of bad trades and not having any discipline. That's, just saving one life from that sinking ship is all I'm looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, the whole reason I don't just like post all just alerts on Twitter or something like that. I mean, there's a whole sea of those, but my notes they're contextual, so it's just like calls here, just calls here, or this specific strike at this time. It's if the stock does this, I'm gonna react this way, and you have to wait a little bit for that setup to take off. But people see an alert, they just want to press a button. But yeah, I think for a lot of those guys and these day traders in general, this the size of their account and the size of their trades is driving the activity, and they come up with a reason to do it, kind of after the fact. The reason I'm day trading stock is because it's so transformational to this sector, um, and so that's why I'm buying these weekly calls on it.
Yeah.
It's just because, like, I only have $150 to put into this trade, and I don't want to just buy 3 shares of this thing, so I'm just going to buy weekly calls and go for the 1,000%er, and then they'll just do it again. And if you lose, you only lost 150. Who cares? Problem is they do that multiple times a week, 20 times a month, and then they just reset their account every month. So not a good way to go about it.
Yeah, no, there's some people like train wrecks. I've always accounted it to that. Um, yeah, and then just kind of rotate a little bit. You don't see like another thing kind of bothered me is over the last month we've been pretty adamant about pull back in the Mag 7. Well, start of the year, pull back in the Mag 7, and then kind of to it, not through it, and definitely slowed down over the last month, which we've had some of the worst days, and now we're kind of turning it back on, and those guys are just all in every Monday, same thing, over and over again, and you have to be a really good trader to not know how to turn not turn it off and on, but how to size up and size down, and when to really put your foot on the gas, and when to scale back a little bit um, in the market, because it's not always the same. And there's some really good trading conditions, and there's some times that even if you're good, you can end up in some bad spots. So or end up, for me, it's not like a bad spot is being down 5-10%, and then that money being locked up for 4 weeks because you're waiting for that 5 or 10% to come back. That's a bad spot. That's what a bad spot is. And there's really good markets to trade in, and there's markets where you got to work a little harder. And being able to identify that is like definitely, I'd say it's in our top five. I mean, I don't even got to budge on that. And they're blind to that. And that's always kind of bothered me. That it's just Monday. Here we go. Like, there's one guy, and I don't really follow him much, but you get the page long thing, so you skim through it. But he's like, it's all like, if the 200 SMAs here, or I don't even think it's that. It's probably like the 3 SMA on the minute chart. If it's here, and after 10 o'clock, it's like, that doesn't work every time. Like, that might be successful for you occasionally, but you can't just say, oh, it's 10 o'clock, and if these 4 parameters meet, like, not to ramble or get too off guard, but I thought earlier this week, because SPY, a couple times when I was looking at it, there was days where it was at 555, but the market was down 2%. And then there was a day it was at 555, but the market was up a 0.5%. Like, your perception changes on both of those, but it's the same number. So having like a thesis and a more of a nuanced system is way better than like, here's 4 rules, and no matter the weather, I'm just going to trade. And they missed that completely. And again, it's at least in our top 5, maybe top 3.
Yeah, and the character of the day matters a lot, because if you get a day where bulk of the move is in the pre-market, going in to try to trade SPY on a day like that, especially early in the day, is very difficult. It's where don't chase calls, don't chase puts came from. And even if you're wanting to short the overbought move to the upside, that's even hard, because you often do get a little bit of a follow through early in the day, and just a lot of fake outs. It's not really picking direction, and there isn't a particularly usually even a level up there to deal with. So it's just a volume push early in the morning that's chaotic, and you want to try to scalp that for $50. I mean, I think you can do that, but it's you can't go into that in the same way that you would, where the kind of, you get I call them the scam algo, but like, you just get that pop, usually a little pullback, and then it just will grind up all day. That's what Airbnb did on
all the way back
Friday.
All the way back.
I just I got in there and just hung out, and at recognizing those kind of setups is important for me, especially when I can get a setup like that off of a pivot, like even like Tesla 280 on Friday. I liked Tesla at 280 for options, even though, I mean, that's $60 above where I wanted to buy shares, but I know what I'm going to do when it gets there, and how it's going to react. And on options, you got to hedge the other side because it can, certainly break down. But they bring it back to that pivot for reason, and there's things programmed to happen once it does. I don't know exactly what it's going to do, but I know it's going to react from there, as
Mhm.
opposed to just, you know, I'm going to just slam Tesla calls every day. It's a stock I hate to trade in the middle of a zone. I just can't. It's why I only talk about Tesla maybe, like for several weeks, 2 or 3 times a year. Not It's
Yeah.
not every day. And so, like recognizing those kind of setups rather than just being like, I'm just going to trade Nvidia every day. Um, we're well out of the market where that works. And I think that the fact it did work for people gets them back to it. But the further problem, and then I'll get off of these other traders. But the biggest problem is that during that explosive historic run of Nvidia, they didn't really get much out of that move. They weren't invested in it. They were scalping it the whole time. And yes, they had some winning trades, but they don't have a lot to show for it. And so they like kind of resent that or want to correct that, or they're just going to keep doing what they're doing. But they didn't reach that point that I did, where it was like, I want to use the work. And that was when I really started to get a lot more into shares, to keep options the same size, and actually work to grow something, because I want to get full expression of a move like I did for Duolingo or Spot or Palantir or Meta. Like I mean that round for me went much better this time, not because of the option trading, which is about the same this whole time, but because I actually had something into it. And you have to have a little money to do that, and that money's got to come from probably from labor and working, and then you can grow from there.
Yeah, a lot of people don't say that part, but
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
it's real hard to start with 1,000, or even I'd even say 10,000, and then have 10x that somehow magically in a short period of time. And yeah, if you can just feed in a couple $100 and go back to work. We used to say that. You can go back to work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Same thing. Early on there, you said something that I had to write down because it was good. Just the we I forgot exactly the point you were making, but oh, it was about like spying the pre-market. Um,
Yeah.
when we have that's one of the better like sayings that we come up with a lot of sayings in our room, just because that's what rules are and reminders are good, and if you can keep stuff in your head. Um, but that's where the buy on red days. That kind of keeps you
Yeah.
from buying on them pre-market jack moves, and that's
Yeah.
one of the better sayings. And you're not wrong. And even from the swing side, like that's not the day you buy. You don't buy stuff when it had a 5 or 10% run in the day, and if you do, that it's probably a new scalp. Um,
Yeah.
but from the swing trader standpoint, that's just always been a no. And another rule, I didn't know how I was going to incorporate it, so I'm going to do it rough here. But we're trading, and one of my favorite sayings used to be, I used to say it all the time, kind of just to be a little bit of a you know counterculture to most suit and tie people. But we are robbing Wall Street, damn it. And that window has to be big enough for to get the TV out, and you just get the TV out. And if the window
Yeah.
stays open big enough, you get your TV again. And you don't want to bump your knees or your head on the top of the window or the bottom of the window seal. So get your sizing
And,
right.
and
Get
don't
the
don't go for the 72-inch TV.
yeah, yeah. You're not going to pull that out in one chunk,
Yeah.
and there's not a window
Right.
that big usually. So but yeah, yeah, and just stuff like that. Like you don't get that consistency in creation from content creators over there. So I just wanted to put that in there. Um,
Yeah.
got another note here. You're better at this topic or stuff than I am. But man, when when the saying when growth is defensive in the market, and how the market's changing currently, and how we're seeing sectors that are not being piled into, but are getting a lot of attention. Um, just your overall perception on where we're at in the market going forward. I know you kind of nailed the Renaissance trade because we're staying at home because recession lingers, but update that a little bit for me.
Well, like part of it for me. I said probably over a year ago now, but at I thought semiconductors and AI are treated as a national security issue, and so at the stocks related to that get some protection, get some favorable policies. So much of Wall Street is centered on those names that you can call them bubble if you want, but there's just going to be a lot of resiliency there. And so, to me, the market pullback ended with Nvidia under $100, and 95 was my number. But you could phrase it too with it's under your 105 or whatever. But the point at which did that, it's like this is where things are gonna turn around, and we're gonna get momentum off of that. We might linger down here, for a while, but there's a sense in which United States policy is not really going to let us lose as far as the AI thing goes, and so that to me, Nvidia kind of clearing the road is kind of the go signal for all the SaaS related stuff to catch up to that. I was doing my day job, and I use this app for taking notes on my iPad. And this last update, it was like good notes plus AI. Like they're like
Yeah.
throwing that in there. So and that story is not played out. It's not over. It's gearing back up, and even so something like this one, Duolingo. I got out of this at like 425, and I I didn't get as much of this as Spot. But I did get back in around the same chart this Spot was doing. Duolingo had this massive shift to basically like we're canning most of our people. We're shifting to AI. We're making it this big emphasis, and we're kind of back. So piling into growth like that extreme example because of the way the stock is built with its float size and all of that. But I think it's something that you're going to continue to see. And you got Palantir setting back up. This one I was on a couple weeks ago, and
Yeah, yeah.
this is where I really like working with you because you were saying like it hasn't really built up here. And then I look at the chart. I'm like, yeah, I can see why it hasn't really built up here because of that move it did. But it bounced back from the pullback and punched through highs like that. That to me is like a really good sign. And it doesn't mean that I would want to pile into Palantir up here. All I got what I got. That's it. But this means a lot for other names. And I said the other day, I was like, if you buy every single AV semiconductor, probably do fine. We have precision on which ones and when. But the reason I said that is because leaders bounce back the way they did, have the momentum they have. Like all of that is a really good sign. Doesn't mean we're exiting the 3-2 market, whatever. But I do think it's time to look at some names you like, and you're going to get some positions you can hold for a while from that. That's my take on the growth names right now.
Yeah, no, I was in that same thesis with the Mag 7 at the start of April. Like, you're going to get some pullback here, and this is going to be the time to buy. And it seems like that's the next step in that, or what we're
Yeah.
currently doing. And you also said something about the growth in the share structure for, God, I'm drawing a blank. The one before.
Duolingo.
Oh, Duolingo. And that's one of the good things about growth is a lot of them are like that because they haven't split or
Yeah.
diluted or stuff like that. So I mean that's one of the attractions to growth names for most people, and you've seen it with a Carvana or a Lemonade or whatever. The range can be crazy when they get to where there is no volume. So um, you don't have.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
like that because you don't have to have the sizing. You don't need that sizing for a stock because you're gonna get a fairly big percent over a short period of time and never really be bagged. Even the like even yeah this one too Duolingo, that's still I mean if you bought around 300, you got a 50% move in a really short period of time.
yeah, exactly. And I said this about Spotify that you know had had 10 shares on the first run, and I dumped them on the pullback to 400, right? And then I got in 5 shares on this spot, and I got a little more Spotify, same chart basically. It felt a lot better for that to be 2 trades and just round trip from 425 under 300, and now okay, it's 486. Um, that, but to get back to where I exited, you needed a 21% day of earnings, and there wasn't really a guarantee going into that. Could very easily have fallen back into the low 300s. I mean, who the hell knows? Like
What I'm learning, and I mean I want to get a little better at, but we already identify it is um, a lot of the charts that do go all time high when they have pullback at all, um, they usually create a range that's gonna be retraced that it's click through because there isn't a lot of shares that we talk about, and being able to identify that a little better is I think where we you know level up
I
once
mean, the float.
again. But like those two charts you had, Duolingo and Spotify, I mean those are pretty large moves, and again in a short period of time. And in the retrospect or looking back in the Monday morning quarterback, it's like okay, there's something there that we should probably you know stay on in the long run because those moves are just too quick. If it's quick down, it's quick back up in a lot of those cases. And you could even throw Airbnb on Friday on that. And not that that's out of a zone, but um, yeah, what it did on Friday is the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Resilient is the word. It is really the
yes,
word.
and this is where people get really caught up in narrative because it's like, well, Airbnb, recession and um, unfavorable local laws about having Airbnb houses, and
Yeah.
so they get caught up in the story, like this thing's gonna go drop to $50. Um, Whereas, I mean, you can just even see the way it reacted after hours, and then in the pre-market, and so I put it into my notes. Yeah, it would have been nice if it parked around 117 the whole time, but I put it in my notes because of what it did kind of late in the pre-market. I was like, oh, okay, there's something here for it to basically retrace that initial move down, and then I'm like, 120 makes some sense as an option pivot. So yeah, I'll go for it. And then it just pretty much most of the day was steadily moving up. And by the way, real quick, like minute chart traders, who tried to pile into the zero DTE early in the day, and it's like, oh, I got the move up, and then it's like you didn't get out, your contract's pretty much going to zero, and then it recovers. If you were in zero DTE, it's approximately here at like 124 where you recovered your initial cost because of the whole theta decay thing. So that's why those contracts are not the best thing to be in, because you can be right, you get a $3-4 move on the thing, but because of the contract you bought, because the account size you're working with, you still struggle. and can still easily lose because of that entry, because you bought when things were a little juiced early in the morning, and then it bled out and slowly recovers. But the kind of recovery you need to even get out of the trade is not a winning strategy at all.
And then you don't have time either because
Yeah,
it's a weekly, right? Or
yeah. So it's expiring, on Friday. So yes, it ended up working out for you, but probably not, because you probably just gave up on it or about here, and then it finally made the move up. Whereas if you just bought a freaking monthly at 123C or whatever, you could have gotten out when it popped over that spot, or you could have kept one, and you just have more flexibility. And if you want to hedge it, you can do that too, to stay in it longer. But it takes more money than they're working with, and until you get to a point where you can put that kind of money into it, you're better off just growing your account the old-fashioned way, buying a few things you believe in, and going from there.
yeah, all I can think now is don't trade short-term options on retraces. That's all. I just
Yeah, no, right, exactly.
that just don't make no sense at all. Like everything you just said, like that should be a rule. Someone should have came up with that one by now. You want to talk a little bit about ER season in general?
Yeah. So, we have the guidance is king phrase, kicking around, and that has been. I'll go back to this previous week we just did. Um, that's been that's been kind of the story. And for me, another one is that you can get really, nice numbers in your earnings,
Mm-hmm.
and those for a lot of stocks are kind of a layup. That if the expectations were a little down, they easily beat those numbers, and that has
Hey,
not been
no,
enough
time
to
out.
sustain.
P. The numbers right now are: can you get out of bed in the morning? That's your
Right, yeah,
expectation. That is your
yeah.
expectation right now, and a lot of people graze over that. But they're so
Yeah.
low. That's a low bar.
So it's to me it's guidance. It's also keywords. So
Agree.
um, the in the call there's words that they can say that are going to move things and affect things, and UPS got caught up in that a little bit, and um, Starbucks too. But I mean, Starbucks was an opportunity, and
Bye.
that, like, to me, the best setups that we have right now are the ones where we know the spots going into it, and then are ready to react to it, and not scared by 8% drop or something like that. Because to me, like, it's a high probability it's going to retrace that drop, and then we go to work and we see what happens. And I'd rather be in a position where I already own some of that, going into a setup like that. And then I mean, obviously, like the past week, Microsoft and Facebook
Yeah.
really crushed it. I said to you privately, there wasn't a reason I said it privately, it just came up, but that, Microsoft for me has always been a big barometer. And I even said it Wednesday, I was like, more so than Apple. Apple can still have some issues. And then Apple, dropped 4%. Still not a big deal. But yeah, Microsoft to me was really, really key to market direction. So that's, another thing I uh, definitely got out of this as well.
Yeah, I think
But
if
oh, go ahead. Yeah.
what I suggest, or my 2 cents out there is, and I'll just use some names here, but the bigger names, or the household names, the 10 out of 10s, the things you really do want to be invested, the names that are going to take market share in the long run. Um, ER usually can be a pretty good red candle, so that's going to be a pretty good entry for you. So if you are looking for things like Starbucks and Visa and Meta, and you don't have a Microsoft position, and this was a good opportunity, and you're gonna continue. I mean, we're the night is young on ER, so Airbnb too. If you wanted in on that, it's good from the long term standpoint, and um, the, the the red candle, buy on a red candle. I always do, I guess, a reverse thesis on those things, and especially like you said, I'm over here crying a little tear because she said we got the levels, and when the shit hits the levels, and I'm like, yes, because that's that's what I'm all about. Is I know it's far away, sir, some of these levels, but we're gonna wait till then. That's always been my thing, and getting in on those, and being able to plan. Like I said, I have the reverse thesis. Give me a reason why this should continue to go down. And the best two examples right now for me last week are, if you look what Block said, a company I love. Did you see
Yeah.
me asking for Block Flow after the last ER? No, I did ask for
Right. Right.
PayPal Flow, but
Yeah.
Starbucks before, after, around, during, and everything. And so you still want to prove a thesis, even it is to the downside, and you should also have that, and not just, well, this should go up because it's X, Y, or Z, no pun intended. Um, you can do the same with the downside, and that's, I think, is a, a good skill that swing traders and investors have, is
Mm.
being able to digest some information when the opportunity, kind of having a plan, like this is where I want to buy, digesting the information at that time, and then really giving yourself a reason why this shouldn't go down more and or will go up. AMD, well, I could say that too. My flip on AMD is a great example of that. It's like, we're just not buying this until it's down here, and then you get even if you only short term trade that, you got a 10 to 15% move out of that already. So um, this season is a big opportunity, and I said last week, um, I'm reading more than I did, like, during these weeks, than I did my entire senior year in high school, because you have to filter that information, and really get to the nuts and the bolts, and then say, this move does not match what they said, and I see the potential for this to just not only retrace, but to continue the story that I thought initially. So um,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and you do a good job, like, pointing me in the right direction, because before I would just look at that. Bring up that ER list if you can again.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Before I would just look at this and go like, fuck. and now I and
Right.
now I
Right.
got you, that you kind of go, well, I like this, or I like this sector, or I like this thesis, and these are the names, and then I might add one or two here or there, but for the most part, you cover it very, very, very well. So yeah,
Yeah.
don't know how you do it.
It's something that I've kind of picked up over time, and we have enough experience now that it's getting a little easier as far as the levels go. And Roku to me is just such a clear example of this. There was a time, like early on with me, that I might have still had some original Roku shares, and there's the opportunity cost of missing the amount of times you can enter this thing. The When it dropped to 63, I started to look at it as a potential for Friday, because I'm like, well, it's probably going to go hit that pivot right there. And but the kind of trade that is it's the quick hitter I talk about, because it's going to flush under that level most likely, and then bounce back from that. But there's not going to be any follow through. This is an option driven pivot, better level bracketed by my level here. You have it. I don't even have it marked on my chart, but you have it further down, and it's actually the body of this daily candle. It wicks below your level, I think.
Yeah, I'm just cheating.
And yeah, and but that's where it kind of would need to set up for something longer term. If it You're just going to get chances to add below 60 on this before, in my opinion, before it makes a move back into the middle of this zone. which is where it's probably going. Earnings for them often
Or buying
can,
opportunity.
yeah. I mean, right. You can just look at how many times that's happened all the way back from
Yeah.
this original one, and this is just, I mean, this is another one of those stocks too that just on the way down. I remember like early on with us, I was still looking at option trades on this in the 280, 240, like I recall flow like that, and I couldn't even get you to even look at it twice back then. And then it did the same thing. It was around the same time that we got into coin on there that we started talking seriously about Roku, Twillo, all those names that we've gone back to several times, because it's just it's built some it's built some consistency here, and it's not anywhere close to recovering what it was during that whole COVID thing. But it doesn't matter. Who cares about it's ancient history? It's like a new stock now,
Yeah.
and it's a mature. It's even, I'd say, like the mature stock in this zone. So
Sure. Sure.
so it gets easier over time as we do this, and some of them do, get out of that, and then like Hood had these two little pivots on Hood. It's way gone, and it's just funny to me all the people that really love it up here, or they're even loving it at 60, and it's like, you know, uh, our levels are our levels are long gone. The secondary levels that we had in the $20 area, those are long gone too, and it's just up here doing its thing, but doesn't have the same kind of appeal that it did back then for us.
Yeah, Roku man, calling me out on I'm too cheap and these higher lows are hard. I missed that one last
Yeah,
week,
yeah,
and you're
yeah,
not wrong buying the 50s, but my 50s are just a little cheaper because that's just how I operate. Um,
yeah.
and the second thing on that, the, as- I don't know how to say it exactly, but you can be in Roku's a good example of a stock that you could get a great entry on. It can make 100% move. You could, weather that whole storm, up, down, left, right, sideways, and probably when you do get off the pot, for the lack of better terms, probably going to leave with about 50%. Where you could have hit that during that same time for 25%, 5, 7 times if you stuck with the channel and had a plan. And I think that's a good example for people to look at that and see that kind of move. And then um, that familiarity is also, I think, the hidden gem, the diamond in the rough, that when you start to know the chart and the conditions change and you have a good team that looks at flow and fundamentals and news, you can catch that right out of the zone because you're going to see the differences. But that holding hope and not scaling in or taking some of your money or two trades or rinse and repeat, I just never really got it. And Roku is a great example of that. I would have never traded Roku without you, and I've probably traded, um, you know, 5, maybe 6 theses off of that,
Yeah,
because it
yeah,
just because of the range. So,
absolutely.
you want to get in some boring stuff here? Getting a little
Yeah, yeah. So
little deep.
uh, I'll start with copper. Just really still like this. Just kind of just setting up around here. In a I do a couple dips here and there. I don't really expect it to really challenge that $4 area again without some kind of big geopolitical thing. But even with that, it's so much more complicated than oil as far as the news goes. There isn't really usually a catalyst to just send
Send
copper.
copper, yeah.
Yeah. So the stability of the setup is what I'm after, and eventual breakthrough of five, and kind of grind up from there. And so there's some stocks and some appealing spots that are copper related, and then the strength of copper in general is something that you want to see. Goes against the recession narrative that's out there, I think. So um, a decent leading indicator as far as that goes. Gold, yeah, people been talking gold collapsing. This is what a gold collapse looks like, right? But I think consolidation up here is what we talked about and expected. I, I mean, 3,400 was my idea. It did that, and so now it just it sets back up, and we see not likely to just give that whole move back. So
the oddity in the chart, or the what should stand out to people there, is it ran over 10% in a month. That's the not normal thing. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
so any kind of relief, I mean, not that you should know right where it should go. Do we test 3K? Do we test 31, 32.5? Shouldn't know that, but you should expect some pullback in gold after the run it had over that month, because that was not
yeah,
normal.
yeah. No, absolutely. And still kind of think the opportunity in silver is probably the best among metals right now. Just staying up, keeping 32 relevant. It's a 32 to 36 move that's brewing, and then it could just punch through that and keep going. So still like silver a lot as well.
Tradable charts, very tradable charts.
And natural gas,
Yeah. Okay.
higher low up here is good. You don't want to go back to $2, and there's really nothing to take it back down to that. Still, I think the real price, not it's the one sector where I buy into some conspiracies because of Ukraine and all that, but 5 to 7 is to me the real price of natural gas.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of when is it gonna realign itself with reality is what you're waiting on there. And so to weather that, the combo names are better than the leveraged ETFs as far as waiting out a move like that, because you don't get the decay with the position.
100%. You gonna talk Bitcoin, or you got something else?
Did we talk Bitcoin? Like,
Did we get we didn't get 100K. We were close over the weekend though, huh? 97.
Yeah.
A couple times.
Yeah. So this, definitely, whole idea there was when it went under 80. I was like, I don't think this is gonna break down 70. I think we bounce here, break out of this range, probably to the upside. So I like where it's setting up here. I think you're definitely in quick hitter mode on MSTR and Coin at this point, but there's a lot of laggers, and the best ones are going to be ones without as much history, and where you don't run into bag holders every 50 cents. So we kind of know the names there, sort of the flow's still fresh on them, and I think those are going to be the best moves. But 100K test does seem very likely to me, and if the market's positive, it can go back and test all-time highs. We'll see where we go from there. But some good trades in the sector. Not a lot of good investments from up here, but trades for sure.
Yeah, if you like and subscribe and join the room and find the link and all that stuff, a little shameless promotion there. You got entries on the good ones, or the familiar names, your Mars, Riot, CLSK even. Just had to take your percent, not hold on and update a thesis on the Bitcoin. And we're not going to 200K. We're not going to 120K. Just take the range off a good level and call it good. So. But that will rotate, like you're saying, as if we stay up here and get compression, those other charts will have to catch up on the lesser known names. There's a few names I've been waiting for you to mention, so I'm paying attention. That's about it on that. What do you what I got asked just because that one. Yep, that's it. Yeah, you ain't talked about that thing in a while. What do you got? That is legit the question.
Yeah. So I think the way it got kind of quiet. I mean, you did see some some kind of dramatic moves, but it's sort of floating around here in this 4.2, 4.4% area. What you don't want from this thing is it's really surging, and I would go ahead and just keep an eye on like 4.5 percent. Market's not going to hold shit for gains if it does that. Like it's just the pop and fade thing is just going to be chaotic, and the 3-2 market, the the two downs will be extreme if this thing just rips higher. So um, it's about volatility more than anything. You just want to make sure that it's not going nuts because it'll mess with your setups. But otherwise, yeah, it kind of working here for a while is what you want. Um, just I mean, even when it's like falling and getting crushed, that can be a little bit dangerous too. You just want it to just calm down. Market likes some stability, and then you'll see those growth names take some gains and keep them as long as this thing just sort of stays quiet. That's what you want.
Yeah, I know talking heads talk about it. You talk about it pretty over my head, so I like hearing what you have to say on the 10 year.
Yeah.
A little spy before we get out of here.
Yeah.
Hey, I just want to point out I tweeted the homeroom late in the week because I said last week, just in we weren't even going to talk spy, and then in just a general conversation, 2 weeks ago, I said the bottom was kind of in, because we got a couple candles and the structure just looks like it. And then I said, if we stay in this range, that could be a few candles, but the 565 is the level I think we can continue from. And I fully expect, I'll put it out there because I think we've been in this, people pile in on Fridays in case something happens over the weekend. And then if we don't get peace or some kind of trade deal, or I don't know, something, you get a little sell off on Monday, Tuesday, and then like the Friday everybody wants back in just in case. So that we're here on a Friday, we pushed through that on Friday. It wasn't resistance as it was during the week. Little interested if the flow followed, but I fully expect to kind of pull back under that Monday. But 565 is going to continue to be huge in my opinion. It's a 50 on the weekly currently, and I think that's why.
Yeah. So the range to me right now is 535 to 580.
Okay, bracketing.
This call. This is the same call I talked about
Last
being
week.
active last week, and you can see now it's almost $1,000. This is June 580, and it's edged with. And this is, I mean, there's so many of these contracts out there that to say what any one fund is doing is a little difficult. But overall, the overall picture is 535 September, 530 September. So the hedge is further out, and move up is 580, and then let's see what happens. Could get flow back over 600 easily, or could be the lower high, then and then pull back down. But yeah, so they're definitely they're positioned for some upside to 580, and they have enough time on this that yeah, we could get the pullback Monday, Tuesday, and then move back and get over this week's high to close the week next week. That could very easily be the setup that we look at here.
How is volume on SPY in general? Are they becoming more active? Or are we a little light? Or what would you say?
The volume's not remarkable. It's not remarkably low or high. To me it's just that a call has worked its way into the highest OI is the story. That wasn't the case for months. For months it was all puts, sometimes sold puts, but they're sticking their neck out a little more for upside right now. And so it's not even the it's not the volume; it's what they're doing with the volume that is significant to me. That positioning long in an obvious way, whereas they kind of would try to hide it a little more before this.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, and just for me, what I'm seeing in general across pretty much everything is just a lack of sellers. Not a high volume, but just a lack of people wanting to sell.
Yeah.
Um, and I think again, all you can do is kind of prepare for it because when the news comes, the move's just going to be pretty much instantaneous. So you're going to have to run out of your meeting to get a piece of
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. You ready to get to work, P?
Yeah, let's do it.
Perfect.
I'll grab a coffee.
Awesome. Like and
Yep.
subscribe. Link somewhere, people.